how we are flying through this year. I hope everybody's had a good summer or a good winter, wherever it is that you're watching this week's tag from. So we're really motoring on, and I decided this week that we'd have a look at buttons. I know we've done a bevy of buttons, but we're going to be a bit more selective of our buttons this week, and I have pulled out a selection of fabrics and buttons that I was sent from a lady, I think in America, or it could be Canada. I'm sure you know who you are if you're watching, and thank you so much. I pulled these bits out because they're absolutely divine, and I'd like you to try and find some fabric that you've got that you absolutely love, and it might be fabric that you've just left because you love it so much and you want to keep it safe and not use it, but actually when you think about it, what are you saving it for? Unless it's for a specific project. This looks like it possibly must have been from a quilt or something. The fabric's really fine. It's a lovely cotton. It looks like it's been very, very well loved, and I just love the colours. And then these really, really old buttons. So I'm going to challenge you to try and use something precious out of your stash to make your tag with, because why have it in a cupboard when you can celebrate it just a little bit? You're only going to take a little bit and pop it onto your tag. So we're just going to make a tag today with some strips of fabric and 3 buttons. So we're on about selecting things here. I thought we'd do one that's just maybe a little bit quicker. Hopefully you've got your cuppa with you and you're ready to sit down and either just listen or stitch along, or whatever it is that you want to do, or however it is that you decide that you want to work. Now the bit then that's really difficult then is choosing which bits to use. I love this bit here. It's like a really faded corner, so I think I'm going to use that section first. And I quite like that edging, which I might actually have going off my tag. So if I lay my tag on, and the first cut is the deepest, as the song says, but I've still left loads of fabric and I can still use it for other things. But I just put this on one side because I just love it. I think it's so pretty and so delicate. If you're using something that's really delicate, you might want to back it with maybe with a little bit of interfacing or another bit of fabric or something, just to make it a little bit sturdier. Trim that a little bit off there. Do my usual thing though, where you keep those bits because you never know when you're going to need them or use them again. So to start off with, we're just going to do some strips on our piece, and I just love the edges where you've got like a crossover of fabrics. It's just so pretty and so lovely. So we're not really going to cover that much up, so you're going to be able to celebrate your fabrics. And I know you've all got them. Now, if you haven't, because I know there are quite a few people out there that are new and might only just beginning their stash collection. Charity shops. I know here in the UK things are opening up. I know elsewhere it's not as open yet. But charity shops are great places to go and get fabric from. It's all been pre-loved, pre-worn, and usually, especially men's shirts, cotton shirts, because they've been washed quite a bit, they have a beautiful feel to the fabric. There we go. That's going to go down there. Right, so as we start making decisions, let's start using some pins. Pop a couple in. So I'm going to try and stick with the same colours. I have got myself some little bits of lace as well. I think sometimes that's just quite nice just to break things up a little bit. Okay, so I've got a couple of pins in that bit there. So I've got this one little bit, it's like a little bit of a trimming. I didn't know whether or not to use it because it is very, very white. And I know you could tea stain it, but then I had this Lovely piece of lace, and I love the little edging. So if you have got bits of lace or trimmings and things like that, consider just using sections of them. You don't have to use the whole thing. Sometimes less is more. And this little trimming was really pretty. I've got one that I'd pulled out before that got a little bit like a 4-leaf clover on it, which is lucky. Oh yeah, that's pretty. That's nice. Just overlapping that little section there. And I don't want to cover up too much of my fabric, really. But it's up to you. But I'm just going to keep all the strips for this vertical. I'm not going to do any horizontals. Keep everything vertical. Really. I don't know why I'm trying to do it on the tag. Really, really simple. There we go. There we go. Now you see, actually, I was going to put on, so there's other bits on here that are just really nice. But actually, I just quite like it like that. So it could be as complicated or as simple as you want. Then we need to have a look for some buttons. So these are really old ones. There's some linen buttons. I think they're just plastic. Got ones that I've still got. Obviously somebody took them off some clothing or something, but they're quite nice actually when they have just little bits of something still stuck on them. It's like they've still got a little bit of a story. So we're just going to put three buttons on here. I quite like that one. I don't want that backing on, so I need to try. I think somebody was a bit vicious with these when they removed them from whatever they were on. Rip them off. I know most people will have button tins or have inherited a button tin. I inherited my mum's, well, I say I inherited my mum's button tin. Me and my sister couldn't decide who was getting the tin, so we ended up having to share it. So I only got half my mum's button tin. That's a nice one. These are like linen ones with like a metal edge to them. Well, people have asked where I get my linen buttons from. It's just searching for them, really. I look for them on places like Etsy and eBay, but obviously now things have started opening up. If you can get to a vintage fair or an antiques market, you can sometimes pick them up there. They're not the cheapest of things to buy, but they are lovely to work with. You can keep them the colour that they are, or you can dye them. There we go. So I think that is going to be my tag this week. Really, really simple. Just 3 little buttons and a little bit of fabric. So I'd got a range of colours, some blues and some neutrals, but I think I'm probably going to keep my threads neutral. I don't think I want to detract from the colours I've got on there. So just move my buttons to one side. So my stitching, I'm going to keep it simple again. We're going for a really simple week this week. Okay, nice and simple. Well, I'm doing it simple. You could make it as complicated as you want to. Now you see, normally I have these all threaded beforehand, but I wasn't thinking today. Come on. You know you want to go through the eye of the needle. There we go. See? Tell them off. Bit of a stern talking to. And things work. So I'm going to keep my stitching really, really simple. Just a lovely little straight stitch. Might even try and do it so that you can't see a lot of the stitching. Pop another. Sorry, I'm putting my arm across the screen. It's because I've got my pins just over there. Let's pop another one in. Because this is really fine fabric, I'm just going to have to be really careful. And if you have a look at things like your lace and stuff like that when you're stitching, this has got tiny holes in it. So now I don't know if the camera's going to work. I've been doing a few different zooms and stuff. It should be on autofocus. Right, autofocus. There we go. It's got some tiny holes. You can't see it either. Right, if I bring that down a little bit, see if it'll focus. There we go. So the lace has got some really, really tiny little holes as it goes along. So it's really nice to use that as the guide to your stitching. So just a little running stitch. So I hope everybody's well. And enjoying what we're doing. The tags that I've seen on Instagram and Facebook look amazing. Thank you. I know there's a few people doing this that aren't on social media. And sometimes they might get a friend to post it for them, or they've emailed me them. So thank you so much for all the pictures and everything. I'm sorry I don't have time to reply to everybody, but one of the things I think I've said in previous videos is that we've built this community, worldwide community. So from the map with the tags, got people joining from India and South America, not South America, South Africa. I have heard via a friend that there are a couple of people in Russia that are actually doing the tags as well, which is amazing. I don't actually know if I'm stitching that through that. I think I am. There we go. Okay. So yeah, please, oh, I'm not stitching that on it. Please continue to you go to comment on each other's posts and like liking people's posts and stuff like that. Just a lot of people have just said they just like the idea of knowing that there are other people out there doing the same thing on a Friday or a Saturday, whatever time zone you are in. Made a bit of a hash of that, but I can go back and sort that out later. There we go. Or just not worry about it. So with this week's tag, we're going with the 3 buttons, trying to use some fabric that you've got that's, I don't know, it could have a story behind it. It could be something that somebody's given you. It could be something you've been saving for that perfect project. Could this be the perfect project for that little bit of fabric? Or have you got, I don't know, it could be a little bit of clothing. That would be quite nice actually. If you've got, I don't know, it might be something from your past or your family's past, and you can actually use the fabric and the buttons of the piece of clothing, or it could just be some pretty fabric that you have got in your stash. I know when I usually set challenges like this, I end up with fabric envy and feel like I need to go shopping, because you start seeing fabrics that you can't get hold of, and it's even more annoying when you find out that person doesn't even live in the UK and there's no way that you can get hold of that fabric. Okay, so really simple little running stitch just up to the top, and then I just need to catch it, come back down the other side. So I'm just using the tiny holes that are actually in the lace as inspiration for where I'm stitching. So there's just tiny little holes in the lace that I'm using, little dots. So just going to catch down the edge of the triangles because I don't really want to have a thread across those. So hopefully you can see what's going on. I really don't understand what's happening with my camera at the moment. I think it maybe needs to go and have a detention or a timeout. It's just being very temperamental as to when it wants to and when it doesn't want to work. Yep. There we go. Right, I've done this then. We're going to start attaching our buttons, but I'm going to attach the buttons slightly differently. You know, I don't mind rules, but I'm quite happy to do something I think sometimes just a little bit different. Okay, so I'm going to use a similar colour cotton to fasten my buttons on, but I'm just going to go for something a little bit thicker. So same colour but thicker. Okay, right, so I've got that attached. Let's flip it over. I think I'm about to sneeze, so if I do, I'm sorry. It's really weird. I never cough and I don't sneeze, but the second that you know that you shouldn't be coughing or sneezing, you can't help but cough and sneeze. There we go. Fasten that off. Right, brilliant. Okie dokie. Right, so I'm going to go for a thicker thread now. Slightly thicker needle. Now the one thing you do need to make sure, biggest piece of advice that I can give, is when you're going with a thicker needle, before you start, just make sure that the needle is going to go through the holes of your button. I always do this, that as well when I'm doing beading. There's nothing worse than setting off doing something and then discovering that it won't go through. Sometimes I've done it as well where I've got all the beads lined up on the needle and yeah, it decides that it's not going to work. Okay, right, so putting the buttons on. I'm going to start with my middle button, and what I'm going to do is I've not put a knot in my thread, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from the front to the back, front and then to the back. Okay, lay that down, and then all I'm going to do is trim my thread. So I've got two loose bits here, and I'm just going to tie a knot at the front. We do a triple knot. 1, 2, 3. 3 little knots, and then trim a little button, but I'm leaving the little tails on. Okay, so if you've got a 4, I'm just going to do the same thing, but I've put it on so I've got my horizontal and vertical rather than doing it that way. You could, could I do it? Oh, no, I could do it that way, couldn't I? Actually, yeah, we'll do it that way. So if I do the top 2 first, see, change my mind. I thought I'd got a plan in my head, and then you change your mind. Okay, pull that, snip that off, and again, so I've got my 2 little tails, just cross them over, tuck one under and pull, same again, cross it over, tuck it under, pull, cross it over, tuck it under, and pull. Oops, nearly unthreaded my needle. Okay, the same thing. So I'm coming from the front. I've got a knot in my thread. Just go front. Oh, sorry, I'm off the screen. So I've gone through the front, come up through the back. So my threads are at the front of my piece. Just trim. It just makes it a little bit easier. So I've got my two little tails. Cross it over, tuck one under, pull. Cross it over, tuck one under. I'm just doing it 3 times just so that I know that it's not going to come undone. Tails. Trim my tails. There we go. I've got my last one, which is the one that's got the little bit of fabric on it as well. And I'm hoping this is going to go through. Or do I just do that one? Actually, I might do that one slightly different because I like things in odd numbers. So I've got 3 little tails. So I'm going to get my other thread that I had before. So that's got quite a nice interesting bit on it anyway. So I think with this one, I'm just going to stitch this traditionally. Just back, she says. It's got, there we go. So I've put a knot in this time. Just go up and over. On the table. There we go. Just do that twice, just so I know that that's stitched down. Bit thick fabric. Oh, broke my needle, as if. Come on, you know you want to go through. Oh, as if I've bent my needle. Right, see if I can get it through. There we go. Just tie that off at the back. So I've actually bent the end of my needle. That was good going, Anne. Needs to go in my sharps. I always have if you ever have broken needles or anything like that, don't ever put them straight into the bin. I tend to have a little sharps tub that all my broken bits go into, and then they just stay in there. Never filled up over all this time. Okay, so there we go. That's good, ready to stitch on. I'm going to keep those dangly bits. I quite like those hanging off. So that's week 35, 3 buttons and a nice bit of fabric, something that you've got in your stash that, I don't know, it's up to you. I'll leave it up to you. I know I'll probably end up with fabric envy. So I will see everybody next week. Happy stitching, everybody. Love and hugs. And let's just keep stitching just for the love of stitch. See you next week.